Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are starting a brand new series focused on none other than Zatanna Zatara, DC's most famous magic user, and also the most misunderstood and the most underutilized, in my humble opinion. So I thought that we'd bring her into the spotlight on this channel. I adore her so much as a character, and like I said, I think there's so much potential with her and her stories, but not a lot of people know her canon background. So, like the obsessive Zatanna fan I am, I have a whole bunch of comics from basically every decade since she has first appeared, and I thought it would be fun to go through them one by one and talk about them. So for this episode, I thought we'd start short and simple with the most recent representation of her, which is in Zatanna and the House of Secrets, this beautiful kids graphic novel. It's written by Matthew Cody and illustrated by Yoshi Yoshitani, and the lettering is done by Ariana Mar. So Zatanna and the House of Secrets was actually published earlier this year. I think it was in February 2020, and I was looking forward to this one for a long time because, as Zatanna fans know, she doesn't get a lot of solo series. She gets put into the big teams such as the Justice League, or in recent years the Justice League Dark series, which has given her more of a leading role, but she doesn't have a solo series apart from the Paul Dini Zatanna one, which is a big run and it's a lot to tackle, so I thought we'd start with this one first. So what's Zatanna and the House of Secrets actually about? In this portrayal of her, Zatanna is shown as a young teenager living with her dad, single father alone. Her mom passed away when she was younger, and she's still very much coming into her own as a magician. She's still learning about her powers, learning how to control them, but also as a person, as a character. You know, when you're a teenager, things are weird. You don't know who your friends are, you don't know what group you fit into, so it very much explores that dynamic. She's often pitched as a stage magician who does real magic, and in most types of fiction you would call her a witch, you know, and it has all these, being a witch has all these implications behind it, especially in fiction. But Zatanna, she's very much like an average person. She likes people, she likes doing her stage shows, even though other greater sorcerers in her universe find it a bit silly. But she likes doing all these seemingly normal things, and in the House of Secrets we see her really coming into her witch side more and kind of exploring what that means. So the plot of the story kicks off when Zatanna finds a letter from her mother addressed to her father, and she's talking about Zatanna as a teenager. And Zatanna's just like, wait a second, hold up, Mom, I thought you were dead. How are you writing letters to my dad talking about, like, asking about me, how I am this very week? And obviously her whole world comes crumbling down. She's shattered emotionally. And you would be too if you find this out about your parents. Her dad leaves her the key to her house while he goes off and runs some errands somewhere. And like all magical artifacts, things happen to it when you leave it alone or when they're in the wrong hands. So Zatanna goes off to her school dance and she carries the key with her, but it gets stolen off her by Clarion, the witch boy. And we're going to talk about all of their characters in a little bit. I'm just going to run through the basic plot right here. So she loses the key, and by the time she comes back home, she finds out that her house has some unwelcome guests. Clarion and his mother, the Witch Queen, has taken over the house because the house that Zatanna lives in is a very ancient, very magical house called the House of Secrets. It's had a couple of other names in her reiterations. I think they called it Shadowcrest at one point, and this is very reminiscent if you are a fan of Justice League Dark, the comics, or if you've seen the animated films, you know that they have this magical moving house out there that these characters use as their base camp. Is called the House of Mystery. So the House of Secrets is, I kind of like the idea of there being several old but powerful magical houses in the existence of the universe and space and time. And it's said that in this book, the House of Secrets was actually the very first house, and they've had different caretakers from every single generation. Every caretaker of the house passes down the key to the house, and they're responsible for guarding it, responsible for, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, utilizing all of the magical powers that the house holds. So we're going to start talking about Zatara here, who is Zatanna's dad. And just a little detail, I like the fact that he was portrayed here as a person of color. I don't know what race he is, well, explicitly in the book. I think some people have said that he might be Jewish Romani. Some people said Italian Romani. And this is not based on this book, but based on previous iterations of the character, so I'm assuming this is what they're going off of, but they didn't specify, but it's still nice to see. Now, Zatara is also known as Giovanni in a lot of the iterations, so his name is Giovanni Zatara, but they just went with Zatara for this one. He is a powerhouse of the Justice League, actually, one of the original members of that older generation. And we're not going to go into this huge tangent right now because so Zatanna is a character who they can't seem to decide what age she is. Because in some reiterations, she's up there with the Justice League. She grew up with Batman, so they're about the same age. And in other iterations, she grew up with Dick Grayson. They can't seem to decide, but for all intents and purposes, her dad was a member of the League, and stuff happens to him. He either dies, gets possessed, or goes somewhere. But losing him is very much an integral part of her story. I think it's just as integral to her story as it is to Bruce Wayne's story, losing his parents. They share that same type of narrative arc. The only difference is for her, it happens much later in life, and they have had their moments, Zatara and Zatanna, where they have fought side by side, and I think she has grown up a lot with him in terms of not just life, but in terms of magic and being a superhero. And there's a nice little reference in the book where Zatanna's just like, oh, my dad looks like he just got back from a fight with Killer Croc. I think one of the key messages in the story that I really like is the fact that we, as children, I say this as a 23-year-old woman, children often don't know a lot of things about their parents. They always know less than they think they know about their parents. And this isn't like some grand revelation, but when you're a child, you just don't think about these things. In Zatanna's case, her dad is the one who uses his magic to make pancakes in the morning, but she slowly figures out that he is much, 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 much more powerful than that. And he has so many other secrets in this entire world that she doesn't know about because she's not ready to know about yet. And a lot of this story is her coming into finding out these things and knowing how to deal with that. It's a coming of age story. A new character in this book, which I haven't seen in other iterations, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, is Zatanna's magical talking rabbit, which is Hocus. And I like the idea of her having like a fluffy friend because witches usually do have familiars. That's like a classic staple witch thing in fiction, at least. So Hocus is just a fun character to have. He's snarky, he knows his magical stuff, and he knows more about Zatara than Zatanna knows, and he's kind of there to help her when she's feeling like she can't handle it all. And now we're going to delve a little bit into spoiler territory because I'm going to talk about Zatanna's mother, Cyndella. The fact is, we don't know a lot about Cyndella, and I kind of like it that way, actually. I like the mystery of it. We don't often get this. I mean, at least when we're thinking about Bruce Wayne and his parents, we have a lot of story arcs about them, about their secrets in Gotham, you know, the Court of Owls and etc., etc. And we kind of know who they are as people, at least. At the very least, we know who they were, what they did. With Cyndella, she is very, very shrouded in mystery. And I like the fact that they explore this here without completely taking all of that mystery away. So spoilers, Cyndella is a ghost and she's been living in the Zatanna mansion basement this entire time. And when Zatanna finds her at the end of the book, she learns that her and her father have been sending each other like letters through the door because she is like stuck behind this like death door or something. Yeah, I think it's a special door that people, if you cross over the door, then you can no longer return to the world of the living, unless you're the caretaker of the house, which, surprise, surprise, turns out to be Zatanna herself. And there's this really nice bait and switch in the book where Zatara gives Zatanna the key, and you're led to believe that he is the caretaker of the house. And as Zatanna fights the Witch Queen and Clarion, and she loses all hope, and she has nothing left, basically. She doesn't have the key, she doesn't have her father, she doesn't have Hocus, the bunny. The bunny gets put aside for a second. And she very bravely goes through this door and discovers her mother on the other end, and she discovers that she's the caretaker of the house and that she can fix all of this. We talked a little bit about, you know, not knowing the full story about your parents, but there's also this whole thing about not knowing the full story of yourself. What I like about Zatanna's character and her relationship with her father is that it's always been clear her father has always known that she would supersede him in all aspects of magic and life. He's proud to see her growing into the person she is today, and he knows that even though he won't always be there to see it, that it's happening and she's there. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Clarion the Witch Boy. And I gotta say, he has a pretty good starring role in this. And by good, I mean great, actually. So if you don't know who Clarion is, he is, I actually don't know much about him. Before this, though, I have seen him in Young Justice, and you get a sense of his character there. He's very, like, devious, full of mischief, kind of immature. He is literally a child, a demonic child. I don't know where he came from. Like, I don't know where his powers are from. His mother is the Witch Queen who has orchestrated all of the villainy in this book, and she is the one trying to steal the House of Secrets. But we're still going to talk about Clarion here, and I'm just going to say what I really love about the way Matthew Cody wrote him. He really wrote, it's a very nuanced and layered take on him, and I think that works perfectly well for this story. And the fact is, he draws a lot of parallels between him and Zatanna, and this is illustrated beautifully in the art by Yoshi. There's this amazing page that I love, and I'm going to stick it up here, where Clarion and Zatanna are portrayed as kind of two sides of the same coin, really. They're both magical beings still coming into their own, and they both have parents that they don't quite trust, but they don't know what else to do with them, and they need their parents back because as children you still depend on them for so many things, and that's what they're working together for. That's how they start building an alliance throughout the book. And Clarion's mom is portrayed as manipulative, and he's clearly a victim too in the situation. But when it comes to his relationship with Zatanna, I do love like the frenemy take that they've given him, because I haven't seen that in anywhere else. Like in Young Justice, he was a straight up villain. Like you could tell he had a lot of fun fighting against Zatanna and like making fun of her. And Clarion does teach her a lot of things about witchcraft in this book because she had a very different upbringing. And he's clever, he's crafty, he has tricks up his sleeve left and right, but what ultimately gives Zatanna that edge over him is her strength and the fact that he would like buckle under his own insecurity. Zatanna is fearless, and I don't think she gets credit for this enough, or for what I'm about to say, which is that she's the type of character who really wears her heart on her sleeve. Like, you see when she is mad, she's mad, and that's usually at like John Constantine or something. So you can see that she doesn't hold back her rage, and whenever she's happy, you can tell that she loves like experiencing the joy in life, and whenever she's sad, she doesn't hide that either. She just lets it flow through her. But I think that that makes her really brave, because it takes a lot to be someone who has that much power and to live so fearlessly in front of everyone who's always doubting her powers. Because like I said, Zatanna's always a little bit in the sidelines. You know, people are not sure if they can trust her. She's not one of them, no matter which group she's in. But ultimately, like most heroes, Zatanna wants to do the right thing, and ultimately she's driven by that desire to do good. And yeah, there's some amazing moments in this where you see her using her spell casting abilities, her backwards speech in really fun ways, and this is where the letterer does an amazing job in the comic. I would say like Ariana Mar's lettering in this comic is the star of the show, among the beautiful art and the wonderful story, but it's just so fun to see her speech like translated like that, because when we're watching films, when we're watching the animation, we don't know what she's saying. Like we can guess the spell based on what happens on the screen and what the effects of that spell is. But she's speaking backwards. I don't speak backwards. You don't speak backwards. At least I don't think so. So I think Zatanna is a character that really thrives in the comic book medium, and they find so many fun ways of like illustrating like the text on the page. So yeah, I feel like this novel is such a good representation for her and her character. So I would really recommend that you read this book if you are a Zatanna fan. It's a great introduction to her character if you literally don't know anything else about her. And if you are a longtime fan, then I think you'd really enjoy this too. So that wraps up the first video in my new Zatanna series. Let me know in the comments which one you'd like to see next, which reiteration, whether that's like an entire comic book run or a single issue or even a TV show. I'm going to branch out into her animated portrayals as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a long series, and we're going to have lots of love on this channel for Zatanna. So I hope the stands come. Please come. I need friends. Thank you so much for visiting this channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and say hello in the comments if you're new or if you've been here for so long. Thanks for sticking around. Have a fantastic week ahead and take care. Bye!